Hello, welcome to this month's edition of State of the Arts on Rogers Community 11 in Cornwall. I'm your host, Julie Vaillancourt. State of the Arts is your arts and culture update program for the City of Cornwall and the surrounding areas as well. In this month's edition, State of the Arts will be taking a look at some of the exhibitors at the Cornwall Regional Art Gallery this month. On display are works from sculptor painter Iris Moore, from porcelain painter and watercolor artist Thelma Nobbs, also from commercial and portrait artist Ted Sohn. We'll be talking to these three guests, plus some words from administrator of the gallery, Audrey Bain. All this and much, much more when State of the Arts continues after this. Welcome back to State of the Arts. Through the month of November, several local artists will be featuring their work at the Cornwall Regional Art Gallery. The work on display is a wide-ranging mixture of personalities and of mediums. To speak with us first today on the program is Gallery Administrator Audrey Bain. Audrey, welcome to the program. Can you tell us why the gallery is hosting a fine art exhibition and craft sale at this time?
Well, we're always trying to provide opportunities for our local artists and artisans, and this particular show is the first of its kind, combining the two, and this is why we got started.
Audrey, how many artists and craftspeople are represented in this exhibition?
Approximately 30 artists and artisans are represented.
Audrey, how do you feel this kind of exhibition supports local artists? How does it help them?
The mandate of the Cornwall Regional Art Gallery is to encourage local art and also to act as an educational tool for the community. This is one of many of our large exhibitions, such as the Wizard of Oz, which we will be putting on in March, the River, which normally goes on in July, and our annual Jord exhibition, which is in December. Cornwall Regional Art Gallery is owned and operated by the Cornwall Gallery Society and funded in part by the city.
Audrey, how long is this exhibition on for? And also tell us the gallery's hours so people can come and see it.
The exhibition starts November the 7th and runs until the 29th, although our gallery shop will always be in operation and certain proportions of the exhibition will be incorporated in that. Our hours are Tuesday to Friday are 10:30 to 5:30, and Saturday 9:30 to 4:30. And everybody is welcome in the gallery. We always look forward to our visitors.
Audrey, I understand you also have some of your own work on display. Tell us about it.
Well, my husband and I are both artists, and we paint together a lot. In particular, at the moment, though, I'm very interested in printmaking. So what I have on the wall behind me are some different prints. This is an etching that I did in Grand Manan. This is a woodcut that I did in Grand Manan as well. And these paintings are representative of my husband's up north paintings. We both paint together. We quite enjoy it. This exhibition, by the way, is very good for the artist that doesn't have an opportunity to produce on a large scale, that is working full-time. The artist that very much loves their craft but doesn't have time to produce a body of work such as 30 paintings that is necessary for a full exhibition here in the gallery, but produces on a regular basis 3 or 4 paintings in periods of time. So this is the opportunity, this particular exhibition and some of our other group exhibitions gives the artists a chance to display their work on a regular basis. We also display the work in the gallery shop.
Thank you for joining us today, Audrey. We now return to the Cornwall Regional Art Gallery to speak with Iris Moore. Iris is involved in sculpture, in pottery, and also in watercolor. Iris, welcome to State of the Arts. You have an extremely diverse background in the arts. Can you tell me how long you've been interested in the arts?
Well, I think I've always been interested in creating things from when I first started with mud pies as a very little girl. But it was in the 1970s, after my daughter got big enough to go to school and was going to high school, that I decided to go back to college. And I went to St. Lawrence College for 3 years in visual and creative arts and graduated in 1978. And then I continued on with workshops and summer courses with painters in Maine when I wanted to get into watercolor. And I studied with Val Tulleen in Ogunquit, Maine every summer. And that's how the watercolor painting came about, when I started to gravitate more to it than acrylics and other media. And of course that introduced me to pottery, which has become a hobby ever since, and I belong to the Seaway Potters Guild, and I don't do a lot of pottery, but I do all hand-built pottery.
What's your background, Iris? Have you studied many different art forms?
Oh, well, I took woodworking at St. Lawrence College. Of course, that was to help me with sculpture whenever I was doing, you know, some background things. And then I took silk painting with Lorna Foreman here at the gallery. This is an example of some of the scarves, and I've also branched out in that to make pillows, and it makes beautiful gifts. You know, you can do all kinds of things for your family, and next year I think I'm going to do more wearable art. In other words, I'm going into blouses and things that would be a little different. And the last venture was in sweetgrass baskets, of which I'm sure you're aware, at the United Counties Museum. And there's so many different courses that it makes you appreciate what each article is really worth whenever you try something yourself and see how much work is involved in it.
Iris, what kind of pieces do you really enjoy creating?
Oh, that's a hard question. I enjoy working towards the pottery exhibitions, because when we set a certain theme, often you're challenged to try something and to research an area that maybe you wouldn't do on your own, you know, if you're just working by yourself. The same is with the gallery when we did the Alice in Wonderland last year, and this year will be the Wizard of Oz, that you start thinking along different lines and try to do something new and exciting in that area.
Iris, can you show us a sample of some of your work?
Well, perhaps in the wall pieces, this is a wall sculpture which is part painting and part pottery. It's called Half a Pot is Better Than None, and it was really a creative correction. Then, of course, in the pottery, here's some of the other things that were from an exhibition. This was from the Fantasy from the Orient exhibition, this type of plate, which is a very different type. Then there's the more practical type of things, which I often do for gifts, which makes something nice for your buffet, and yet it's practical. It's a gift that keeps on giving year-round, you know, because you can enjoy it. It'd be hard to show all of the things. Of course, you can always come into the gallery and see most of them on display here.
Iris, what are you currently working on?
Currently, well, right now I'm starting to work on some things for the Wizard of Oz next March, which will be the gallery production for the month of March. And I was doing some illustrations for it, and I hope to do a large wall hanging to tie in with the Wizard of Oz. And then, of course, it's Christmas and family and things that you really do a lot of work for, and people appreciate the homemade gifts that are just for them. And of course, there's a lot of different Christmas decorations too, that at this time of year I like to do something a little bit different in that.
Iris, what do you enjoy most about being involved in an exhibition like this one at the Cornwall Gallery?
Well, I think one of the things is the people, because everyone else is interested in something to do with the arts, and so many people have so many talents that you can learn from them, and everyone seems to be very good to share ideas and thoughts, and it's something I learn from other people. That's why I like to take workshops, because you always learn something new. No matter how much you think you know, you can learn a lot more.
Iris, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on State of the Arts. I'll be back in just a moment to speak with local artist Thelma Nobbs when State of the Arts November edition continues. Welcome back to State of the Arts. Thelma Nobbs is a local watercolor and porcelain painter whose work is currently on display at the Cornwall Regional Art Gallery. She joins us now. Welcome to the State of the Arts, Thelma. You do some very unique work. Can you tell us a little bit how you became involved in this art form?
I haven't done China painting all my life. I just started 9 years ago when I retired. We went to live in Ottawa, and I thought, oh, this is a new media, I'd love to try it. So I did, and I got hooked. So I've been doing China painting ever since.
Thelma, you've been involved in a variety of art forms over a number of years. Tell us a little bit what else you've studied and what other mediums you've worked with.
Well, I studied fine arts at Sir George Williams University in Montreal, and then went on to McGill and did my Bachelor of Education. And I majored in art, of course. So I was the art teacher in the town of Mount Royal for 13 years, and therefore I tried every media possible. But China painting wasn't the one. I didn't do that because that's too difficult for children, and it requires all of your time because you need to have a kiln at home because every piece has been fired at least 5 times. And fired, repainted, and fired again and again until you can get the depth of color that you want. You can get the shading for the darker places and this beautiful transparency that you can get with China painting, somewhat like watercolor, by placing one color over another fired color and getting a third color. The only thing that's quite heartbreaking is that you lose some color in the kiln every time, and you never know what you're going to see when you go down in the morning. It can also be very exciting, because when you work in lusters, like this ball, most of the lusters are brown in color when you put them on, and therefore, until they're fired, you have no idea what you're going to see in the morning. And sometimes I wake up very early to run down to the kiln because I can't sleep anymore.
Thelma, what do you enjoy most about what you do?
I enjoy the variety. It can cover a very wide scope, China painting, because there are all different kinds of China painting. There's the old-fashioned China painting was put on, this was done in Europe in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and a lot of the ladies did it as a pastime. They did their dishes, their dinner dishes, but they didn't have the technical kilns we have, and they didn't have the wonderful colors we have today, so their work wasn't as good. They probably only fired it once, and that was it, because they didn't have a variety of colors. But the Scandinavians work with luster and gold and chipping off of the like this cobalt brooch, for instance. The china has been chipped off because glass beads have been fired on and then removed. And then it takes a bit of china with it and gives you the texture. And then to that, they add gold and precious, semi-precious stones. And then there is the Dresden style of China painting, which is particularly German and is completely different. There's no background whatsoever, just to show off the intricacies of the fruit and the colors, and every little piece of china in these perforated plates are used. They are tiny flowers and fruit in all the spaces, and gold and all the basket weave, and that is a very specialized form of China painting also. And just goes on and on. I'm always interested in something new and always creating something new. Because in this particular cup, you know, I didn't plan anything. I just put my brush around and and it looked like mountains, so then I put some trees, and then I fired some gold on it, and each piece is an original and exciting to do.
Thelma, we'd really like to see one of the pieces. Perhaps you could pick a piece and then show us how it's created.
Okay, in this plate, first of all, it's all plain white porcelain like that. And then you have an idea of where you're going to put the roses in balanced arrangement. And you don't do the leaves or anything then. You just make a very, very light sketch of where the roses are going to be, the position and where they will face. And then you just, without making a firm outline, put color there, there, and there, and fire it in. And then on second firing, then you start working on the individual petals and shaping the rose by filling in all the background. That does a better job than actually making the roses too distinct. Then you fire that in, and then you place the leaves wherever you need to put leaves. And then there are shadow leaves, and there are leaves that will stand out in front. And then you work again on the background, picking up a little bit of all the colors and just blending them very lightly together until the whole plate is completely painted. And then you go back again and start working on the roses and darkening the centers and the shadows under the roses and under the leaves, and painting back some leaves and leaving some forward. You have to decide at the very beginning if the light is coming in from the right side or the left side, and think of where it would hit. Everything that is in the direction of the light will have to be a lighter color than the others, and sometimes almost completely washed out, because light can do that to some subjects. Now there's no white china paint. So you have to know this from the very beginning and save the lighter parts. And don't, get really trigger happy with your pink brush, because once it's fired in, there is no way you can cover it up. As in acrylics and oils, there is no way that you can hide it, and there's no way that you can put white paint to bring back the light. So you see, it's very demanding and very intricate, but very exciting at the same time. Well, of course, I'm still working in China, but I do cross-stitch and I paint on silk, and I seem to be leaning towards a lot of different jewelry. I'm very fond of jewelry myself, and there is porcelain jewelry, but I want to do watercolor jewelry, watercolor paper jewelry, and fabric jewelry, and Fimo clay, because I'd like to do some antique pins and necklaces and earrings. I just require a little more time. It's never enough time.
Thank you for joining us today on State of the Arts, Thelma. You do some very beautiful and unique work. When State of the Arts continues, we'll be speaking with local artist Ted Sohn in a moment. Ted Sohn has traveled Canada and served during World War II as a military artist. He now paints the scenes and the portraits of people from this area, and he calls Charlottenburg home. Ted Sohn joins us now on State of the Arts. Welcome to the program, Ted. You've been involved in art for quite a long time. When and how did you become interested in working in the arts?
I've been interested in doing art since I was about 4 years old, but I studied at the Beaux-Arts before World War II for 3 years, and then World War II got in the way for 5 years, and I took commercial art after I got out of the army at Valentine School of Commercial Art in Montreal, and managed to make a living as a graphic artist from that time till I retired. But I painted on the side all the time, whenever I could, hoping someday to just be a painter, which is what I'm doing now. But I've always been interested in music and art, and I guess it runs in the family. My father and my grandfather were artists on the side, and my children and grandchildren, some of them are into it too. So I've always been involved with the arts.
Ted, what kind of artwork have you been involved in over the
Oh,
years?
I worked for 21 years in a silk screen printing business, point of sale advertising they called it. And as salaries were not so beautiful in those days, I freelanced on the side. I did magazine illustration, story illustration for such publications as the Family Herald. I still have some of my illustrations of H. Gordon Green's stories in my portfolios in the dark corners of the cellar. And I tried my hand at just about everything in the graphic art line. You might say I was a jack of all trades in the graphic art line. That's probably why nobody ever heard of me. I didn't specialize in anything long enough.
Ted, you work in different mediums. Which one do you prefer?
I do mostly watercolor painting because I always been inclined to like watercolors better than the other mediums. But because I did a lot of outdoor work over the years, I had to resort to oils for the weather. And in the last few years, I've gotten a little older, I'm afraid, so I work in the house a lot more than I used to. And I've been using acrylics on large paintings, but I still love the watercolors best. I spent a few months of my time in Italy attached to a war artist named Campbell Tinning, and he worked in watercolor at all times, and he was a terrific artist. And I think I got I learned as much from him watching him paint as I did from any other instruction that I had. And watercolor is my #1 love as far as, and I did portraits as well as landscapes. I did hundreds of portraits in watercolor over the years and other mediums. When between salaried jobs, I used to go out and do portraits in malls and at conventions and things like that. And the last time I worked out at a convention, I did 33 watercolor portraits on a long weekend. And when I got home, I said to my wife, there's got to be a better way to make money than this, because you're under quite a pressure to make a good likeness every time. And 33 in a row is quite a few.
Ted, can you tell us something about your favorite pieces?
Well, here's a big on-the-spot watercolor from Newfoundland. That was done in a little outport, and I had the whole outport, the population of the whole outport standing behind me watching me do this, and they were all inviting me home for dinner. So I had quite a day that day. When my wife and our friend, who was a minister down in Newfoundland, came to find me, I was in somebody's house a couple of miles away eating lunch. They didn't know where I was. But that's Newfoundland. And these are some of the local ones. This one is the Raisin River. A friend of mine drove me up and down the Raisin River in a little canoe with a small motor on it, trying to get a shot of these herons. And I've done quite a number of paintings from the material I gathered that evening. This is a beaver pond about 2 miles from where I live. You can only get to it on skis in the wintertime. And I got a lot of material down there. And there's still oodles and oodles of subjects right around my home.
How do you go about choosing a subject to paint?
That's a pretty tough question. You just walk and ride around until something catches your eye. And sometimes I have something in the back of my head that I'd like to find, but you don't always find it. So you just have to go around till you find the right composition, a nice composition and good lighting. And once upon a time I always frowned on anything but finishing a painting on the spot, but now I'll often make sketches and take some photographs and work from the two.
Ted, what are you currently working on?
Oh, I am in the process of doing another watercolor of the River Baudette down where I am, and it was conceived on a misty morning, and the colors are all muted and sort of soft and grayish, and it's quite a challenge, because if you don't retain that softness, the whole effect of the picture is spoiled. And I'm working on 2 or 3. I've got a stuffed owl somebody gave me, and I'm trying to work him into a painting, a big painting. He'll be the foreground, and then I have a background of trees to work with. But I have countless sketches and photographs that I'm trying to build up all whenever I have time. But I'm also involved now with wood carving. My grandson's teaching a bird carving course at St. Lawrence College, and he's got me in there working under him now. He started out working under me, and now it's reversed. But I'm having a lot of fun.
Ted Sohn, I really appreciate you joining us on State of the Arts today. Well, that wraps up this edition of State of the Arts on Rogers Community 11 in Cornwall. For the producers, I'm Julie Vaillancourt saying goodbye for now.